Homemaker Gail LeBlanc is suing bookkeeper Linda Meister for child support costs. Gail says Linda's 17-year-old son, Steve Gwynn, has been living with her for 15 months.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 96 on the calendar in the matter of LeBlanc versus Meister. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Yes.
Ms. LeBlanc, the defendant's 17-year-old son, he is 17 now?
Yes, ma'am.
Has been living with you for the last 15 months.
Yes, ma'am.
And you believe his mother should be contributing to his support.
Yes.
His mother says he should get a job or something. So tell me how it came about that Mrs. Meister's son came to live with you.
Okay, Your Honor, in February of 2001, I was coming home with my children in the van, and I saw this young guy walking on my street in the dark, and I stopped the van. And I said, "That's Steve." And he came in, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "I think I just got kicked out." And I said, "Oh, you want to come home with me and talk about it?" And he said, "Yeah." And we went to my house, and he showed me some marks that a belt had made on him. And he collapsed in my arms crying. And I have 4 sons of my own. And he was friends with one of my sons.
Is that how you know him?
Yeah, he was one of my son's best friends.
Okay.
So he came to my house, and I said, "We need to make sure your mom knows you're okay today, that you're safe tonight." So we called her to make sure she knew. And
Who called her?
I had Steve call his mother from my house to let her know that he was safe that night. And then he went to, I got my kids together, and I said, "Steve needs a place to live. Yeah, I'm your mommy, this is your home. Would you like to let him live here?" And they all said, "Oh, yeah, he's like a brother." My youngest gave him his room.
What did his mother say when you called and said he's here? Did you speak to her personally?
No, just she wanted to know where he was, and he didn't want to tell her at the time because he didn't want her to come after him because he felt she was still angry with him. They had just had a discussion at home.
Oh, well, it sounded like more than a discussion.
So then I called a Christian counselor from my church, and I called his basketball coach, and I called his guidance counselor, and I talked to all of them, and they suggested that I go and have him go to this, it's like a cooling off place, halfway house kind of thing. So he went there. And
For how long?
A couple of days, if I remember correctly, and he said it wasn't good. He wanted to come back home, so he came back to us. And so then he said, "Can I stay here?" And I said, "It's fine with me." So Linda and I talked on the phone several times.
Did you call her?
Well, she knew because we saw each other at school.
Okay.
I had conversations with her all the time to let her know, what was going on and all like that. He didn't wish to call her. It seemed every time they talked on the phone that one ended up hanging up on the other. Steve had a bad life. I mean, this may be irrelevant, but I felt so for him because I love my kids more than anything in the world. And he's like one of my babies. He had grown up really bad. He wasn't with his mom. And then when he finally came to her, all this happened, and
Where had your son been when he was growing up?
He lived mostly with his father.
Until he was how old?
I believe when they came back to live with me, he was 15.
All right. So I'm going to stop you there. He has been with you now constantly for about 15 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever take any legal steps to keep him in your home?
When Steve came to me, I was a recovering breast cancer patient for only a couple of months, and I wasn't really able to do anything that required a lot of energy and effort. But I did talk with Linda on the phone, and she said, "I can't handle Steve. You have 4 sons. You obviously know how to deal with boys. If you want him, you can have him." She gave me a paper notarized.
Can I see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you show this to the defendant, please?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so now we have an agreement, and it is dated a month after he came to live with the plaintiff, and you give permission to Mrs. LeBlanc to make all medical decisions with regard to your son and his educational needs.
Correct.
You do indicate that whilst he is physically residing with her, his home of record shall be yours.
Correct.
Why is that?
Because I never looked at this as a permanent situation. This was only to be a temporary situation. In my opinion, it would blow over within a matter of weeks that he would come home.
But he didn't.
but he didn't, no.
What steps did you take to have him returned to you?
I did make police reports reporting him as a runaway, which they said was not against the law. I could report him as a missing person, which I didn't.
When did you make a report that he was a runaway?
Twice, once in November and once in February.
Did you go to court to have him returned to you?
No, I did not. I did not go to court.
Oh. Did you have become the legal guardian for him?
No, ma'am. I called the court.
No, the answer
I'm
is you
sorry.
didn't.
No, ma'am.
The answer is you didn't. So this is this loose arrangement based upon this consent form.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you believe that Mrs. Meister should pay minimally $200 a month for his care.
$7 a day.
Well, I understand what it is.
Yeah.
I understand what it is, and I'd like to know your position, Mrs. Meister.
I do not feel that I owe the money or that I should pay for the money. First of all, we're not talking about a 10-year-old that ran away from home. We're talking about a 16, almost 17 years old at the time. The reason he ran away is because he was grounded at the time, and he wasn't happy with the rules. My son and I have always had some conflict. However, he was well cared for. He didn't want for anything. I gave him 4 different options, 5 actually, to this situation. Number 1 was to come home. Number 2 was to return to a Christian boarding school that he was in for 2 years. Number 3 was to live with my brother and his wife, who had offered. 4 was to live with his grandmother, who had offered. And 5 was returned home to his father, which he did not want to do, and I personally did not want him to do. I told him and Mrs. LeBlanc both that I was not paying and that it was up to them to decide what to do from there.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You shouldn't even be here. You should be grateful for her and say thank you in your prayers every night to somebody who has taken your 17-year-old son and clearly done a better job with him over the year and a half that he's been in her custody than you and his father could do in all the time you had him.
And later today,
So why are you suing them for $1,100?
She tricked me. It was not good
the things to worry
service.
about. Don't you have a
This
life?
is my home.
Don't
Would
you have a life?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gail LeBlanc says, when Linda Meister's son, 17-year-old Steve Gwynn, ran away from home, she took him in. Gail wants Linda to pay for 15 months of child support.
Do you get copies of your son's report card?
No.
You do.
Yes, ma'am.
In the 15 months that he's been living with you, can you tell me how he's been doing in school?
His grades have gone up and up. He just graduated with honors. And when he came to me, he was doing pretty badly in school. He said he had never had help with homework, and I do that
So he
kind of
graduated
thing.
from high school.
Yes.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I have a copy of his previous report card just prior to him running away from home, and it shows that his grades were not bad.
I'll take a look at his report card.
Thank you.
In English, his first term was a B, and it went down to a D. In American history, he had an A, and he went down to a B. In chemistry, he went from a B to a C, and now he's graduated with honors. So whatever is happening in Miss LeBlanc's house, it's clearly positive. And if you were a concerned parent, I assume you would have gone to school and found out that whatever is going on there is positive. So why would you want to send him to his uncle or to his grandmother or back to his father?
Because I wanted him to be with family,
Evidently, that was a misjudgment on your part.
possibly.
Then
Unfortunately,
you
they
have to
don't
pay
come.
the money, madam. It is not her responsibility to take care of your child.
I agree.
That's absolutely right. And if you wanted him back, there are courts where you could go to say, I want my child home with me. Then it would be left up to a family court judge to determine whether or not you were an appropriate caretaker. You chose not to do that. You chose to let the situation progress for 15 months and to wash your hands of the responsibility financially. Well, you can't do that.
Your
When
Honor,
your child was with his father, did you pay child support?
I sent money.
Did you pay regular child support?
No, I was not ordered to pay child support.
You don't have to be ordered. Nobody has to order you to pay child support. You pay child support because you have a child.
I sent money for other things, Your Honor, to help with clothing, to help with anything
When
he
he
needed.
came to you, did his father pay child support?
No.
Did you ever take him to court for child support?
We had, actually his father is the one who has custody of him.
What was the agreement? That his father wouldn't pay any child support for a 14-year-old?
No, when he came to live with me, I removed them from the home.
Yes.
His father never pursued getting him back. His father has not spoken to me or to the children since I removed them from the home.
So what? That doesn't prevent you from going to court and getting child support from his father for the time he was living with you?
No, it doesn't.
Well, you chose not to do that. Maybe you chose not to do that because for the 9 years he lived with his father never pursued support for him from you. That doesn't prevent her. And she would be crazy to take away money from her own family, from her own children, to support your child who you couldn't deal with.
Then she should have sent him home.
What?
She should have sent him home then. I don't understand why she didn't send him home.
Very easily, madam, because you could not control the situation. And I'm not saying you couldn't control him. You could not control a situation. She's suing for the past 15 months. She's suing for a minimal amount of money, $3,000, $200 a month, $7 a day. Ridiculous. You can't feed a medium-sized dog for $7 a day. You shouldn't even be here. You should be grateful for her and say thank you in your prayers every night to somebody who has taken your 17-year-old son and clearly done a better job with him over the year and a half that he's been in her custody than you and his father could do in all the time you had him. So you should bless her and not be standing over there. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
All right, you guys excused. You may step out.
I felt he needed guidance and he needed a lot of love.
If she would have just sent my son home instead of believing every word that came out of his mouth, this whole thing would have blown over.
He's an excellent kid. He's a good kid.
I believe he told a lot of lies to get where he's at.
I wouldn't mind starting another relationship with her, building up on maybe living with her again.
I love my son and I want him happy.
Just giving birth does not, sometimes in some people, cause a maternal instinct. A family is love.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Campbell versus Mason. Step forward, please.
16-year-old Katie Campbell and her mother, Kathy Campbell, are suing Katie's former friend, 17-year-old Tim Mason, and his mother, Tamara Mason. Katie says Tim cut her hair against her will.
Miss Campbell, this is your daughter?
Yes.
And you're suing on her behalf, is that right?
Yes.
And Miss Mason, this is your son?
Yes.
And you're defending this suit on his behalf because you are how old, sir?
17 years old.
All right, so I'd like all the mothers to sit down, please. I'm going to make short work of this. Miss Campbell, it is your complaint that the defendant assaulted you by cutting your hair off.
Yes.
And you want him to pay all sorts of damages because you wanted to be a model and it took you 5 years to grow your hair. And that was your crowning glory, and he made a mess of it when he cut it. Is that right?
Correct.
Is this the young lady that you were with when he cut your hair?
Yes.
All right, you step up here. Let's do this very, very fast.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Katie Campbell says former friend, 17-year-old Tim Mason, cut her hair against her will. Katie says it's been a serious setback to her modeling career.
You wanted to get your hair done?
Yeah.
She was just going along for the ride.
Right. It was her.
Where
friend.
were you going to go to get your hair done?
He was coming to our house. He was just a friend of hers.
Okay, and he wants to be a hairdresser?
No, not
You
at all.
just want to be...
I don't want nothing to do with hair. They asked me as a favor. I do my hair every once in a while, pull it through a cap, and they asked me to come over to do it out of a favor.
What were you going to do for this young lady?
Fix Katie's mess up of her hair dye.
Color or a cut?
Color.
Color. So he was going to color you. Now, why would you let him color your hair?
He was a friend of hers.
Friend of whose?
My sister's. Mine.
Now, did he color your hair?
Yes, he did.
Good. And then he cut your sister's hair.
Right.
Tell me how that happened.
Well, he cut my sister's hair. I mean, he colored my sister's hair. And then he pulled me into the bathroom, and he had...
How did he pull you? You're bigger than he is.
Well, he said, come to the bathroom, and I said, okay, what are we doing? And he's like, well, I'm going to feather your hair. And I said, what does that mean? And he pulled out, like, a comb that he had in his own bag, and he said, I'm going to feather it. And I said, well, I don't know what that means. You're not cutting my hair if that's what you mean. And he said, no, I'm not cutting your hair. And he repeatedly said he was not cutting my hair. And I said, okay, then what do you mean by feather it? And he said, just trust me. So he sat me down in the chair, and, you know, he took like a tiny little bit off the ends. And I said, well, that's cutting my hair. And he said, no, I'm just going to take the dead ends off so, you know, so it'll grow faster. And I was like, well, I don't know. So he took all my hair into the back, kind of like a ponytail, and he took the comb and he just hit it like really hard right in the middle. And Like in a matter of seconds, it was all gone. And so then I started.
Bye-bye. It's all gone.
And so I started crying and I was screaming. I was saying, you know, stop and
stop and stop. And then he finished it up. All right. Yeah. Give me your version.
I came over. Katie picked me up, met me at a specific location to go to a supply store to get bleach for her hair and a couple of supplies. I asked Katie, okay, are we going to do your hair? She said, okay, we'll buy an extra kit for mine, just in case I like Shelly's hair, how it turns out. So she bought all the products. We bought a kit for her. I brought this comb, and I said, okay, if you wanted to do your hair, feather it, whatever, this is what I got. This is a feathering, texturizing comb. It is used to texturize and feather hair. It does not use to chop off big amounts of hair.
So would you just tell me how come you cut her hair? Tell me what happened.
She asked me to cut her hair.
And where did she ask you to cut her hair?
At her sister's apartment, in the bathroom.
Where? In the bathroom?
Yes.
How did she get into the bathroom?
We walked into the bathroom.
Both of you walked in. You didn't pick her up and carry her there,
no.
did you?
No.
No.
Willingly.
Huh?
We all willingly went to the bathroom, had, you know, she had Kool-Aid, we were all having a good time. I was playing with her son.
Miss Campbell, get over it. Get over it. You were playing around with your sister. She was letting some unprofessional teenager do stuff on her hair. Whether you let him, whether he was acting like an idiot or not, you have choices. Your choice is, you don't go to the bathroom, you don't sit down, you don't say, I don't understand what feathering is. What's feathering? Is it going to cut my hair? You say, don't touch my hair, it's my crowning glory.
I did.
Then you leave.
I tried and he pushed me back down. And he hit my arm down too when I was trying to stop him. He said, shut the F up and get over it. You know, it's done and done. And
but it was already done.
Yeah, when he was doing it, and then he's like, I need to fix it, and you know, this is my career. I've been growing it out, and you know.
So, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?
I don't know.
You all put yourself in this situation. The three teenagers put themselves in this situation. He certainly doesn't have any money to pay you. Why should his mother have to deal with that? I want to tell you something. If you're not a professional hairdresser, if you're not licensed, you're not supposed to be working on anybody. Your only redeeming trait right now is that you are 17 and you are not of age where you could really lose the ability to practice this kind of career permanently. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is this what you want to do as a profession?
I'm doing it for favor. I don't want nothing to do with hair. Nothing.
So that I don't understand why you would even take somebody else's head.
They didn't have the money to get it done. She says, oh, I saw, you know, your friends.
Mr. Mason, listen to me very carefully. If you don't know anything about hair, if you don't profess to know anything about hair, and don't indicate that you know anything about hair, why wouldn't Shelley have her sister do the same thing on her hair that you did if you know nothing about hair? If you don't profess to know anything about hair. Do you understand?
I understand.
It doesn't make any sense unless you suggest that one of them likes you, one of them has a crush on you.
Katie asked me to homecoming.
Did she?
Yes.
When?
In the beginning of the fall, and I wasn't able to make it.
Is that right?
Your Honor, he's gay, and he said that he
gay?
said he would go as a friend. Yes, he said he would go as a friend because she didn't have a date, and she didn't want to miss the only dance because she's doing internet
So
school.
did you go together?
No, he ditched me for it. He didn't show up.
Even more reason not to invite him over to your home.
Right. Well, he apologized and everything, and he had a message on
things
there. Right.
That he has no business taken care of, which means he lets somebody who has absolutely no training do anything to you, because aside from anything else, you could get hurt. Not just your hair, which grows back. You know, whether it takes 6 months or a year, your hair is going to grow back. But other things, you're using bleach on your head, you're using caustic materials, you're letting some schlemiel over you who has no talent take care of you. Very foolish. Your case is dismissed. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's like, well, I'm a professional hairdresser. Just kept chopping it off. It was gone in a matter of like less than 2 minutes. All of her hair was chopped off.
Katie's, you know, she's got a rough life. She's a high school dropout. She lives with her sister in a small apartment with a child, and her mom shoots up drugs.
He chopped my hair off a couple weeks before I was going to go get my portfolio done, and now I can't do that.
With that kind of attitude and her look, she will never make it as a model or actor, even with the hair that she had before me cutting it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Link versus Boo. Step forward, please.
Business owner Joyce Link is suing her neighbor, carpenter John Booth, for damage to her vehicle. Joyce says a drunken John fell against her van.
Miss Link, the defendant is a neighbor of yours.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that he and a bunch of his drunken friends were coming home one evening and fell on your car or van, causing a dent in the van.
Yes.
Mr. Booth says it wasn't him.
Okay.
So tell me when this happened.
It was on a Saturday night, February 16th, 2002, around 12:31 a.m. in the morning. Me and my husband and children were in our house asleep, and we were awoken by some loud voices outside. So we got up, me and my husband, and looked out our bedroom window, and it was Mr. Booth and 4 of his friends. They were drunk, falling into our van and my next-door neighbor's bushes. And we proceeded to go outside, me and my husband, and I asked them to please get off my vehicle. And the next thing I know, Mr. Booth is yelling about, you know, him and his friends.
No, what was he saying to you, Miss Link? I've heard everything.
He was yelling that we woke my effing neighbors up, and one of his friends had apologized for being on our vehicle. He told me that he was sorry, and Mr. Booth yelled, "Sorry, hell, I fell." I have pictures of my vehicle and my neighbor's bushes that happened that night.
Okay, can I see them, please?
The next morning, we proceeded to get John Booth's attention on the matter, and no one would come to the door, so my husband had wrote a note and taped it to his front door. Then on Monday morning, I was on my way out, and Mr. Booth's wife had approached me.
What was the note? What did the note say?
That they needed to get in touch with us about the damages that was done to our van due to him and his friends being drunk that Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Booth's wife, she seen the damages, and she said that she would let her husband know and to get an estimate, and the damages would be taken care of.
Did Mr. Booth ever contact you?
Yes, that evening. Again, I was outside, and he approached me, and he apologized for what happened and told me that him and his friends don't remember anything. They were too drunk. Again, he did apologize, and he said to go get an estimate that he would take care of the damages. So I did go get an estimate, and I left it on their door because that's how we were notifying each other. So I did go get the estimate, and I left it taped to his front door.
Okay, Mr. Booth?
So far, everything's semi-right. Yeah, we did go out and get drunk. We got a little carried away. The wife was feeling sick, so we went up to the neighborhood bar so I wouldn't bother her. We were up there partying, got a little carried away, come on home. We were pretty intoxicated, okay, yeah. And when we passed her house, the guy that actually did the damage, him and his girlfriend were lagging behind me. I was already in my driveway when her car got damaged.
Were these people that you were out drinking with, were they men or women?
Both. We were all couples.
Well, not you weren't a couple.
No, I was in front.
Shh. Let me finish, sir. You weren't a couple. Your wife was sick.
Yes.
That means there were 5 of you.
Yes.
And where were these 2 couples going from the bar?
To my house.
What were they going to do in your house?
They're going to spend the night.
So they were invited guests of
Yes.
yours. And you escorted them to the bar?
Mm-hmm.
And then you all got drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were escorting your friends, invitees of yours, back to your home for the purposes of sleeping there.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Then I don't give a rat's behind who it was that fell on the van, sir. You're responsible.
Okay,
Okay! That's good. That's what you should have said 3 months ago. Mr. Booth, in the last few months, how much money have you sent them towards the repair of the car?
I don't feel like I sent anything.
What do you mean you don't
didn't do
feel
the
like?
damage.
Didn't you just follow what I said? Didn't you just follow what I said?
Okay, I was escorting him back to the house. He fell into the van.
You were responsible for your guests. If your guests become rowdy, and as a result of their being rowdy, cause damage to the neighbor's property, they don't have to go around and hustle and find out the names and addresses of your guests.
I gave it to her.
You're responsible, and if you feel as if your friends are responsible, you go get the money from them.
I was trying.
I was trying. What do you do for a living?
I'm a carpenter.
Mm-hmm. The lowest estimate that you have, Ms. Link, is $519.66.
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff. If you have friends, you make sure your friends are well taken care of, sir. And if they cause damage, you are responsible. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, I don't feel like I should have paid. It wasn't me that damaged the vehicle.
I'm happy with the decision.
Just because someone tripped and fell down, did I force him to get drunk? Did I push him into the van? No.
I was glad it's over.
If it wasn't a bunch of nagging going on.
If him and his friends didn't get drunk and damage my van, I wouldn't be a nagger.
No one could talk to me. They had to leave a note on the door. I live right next door.
We're still going to be neighbors. We'll still talk.
I like him, actually. My kids play with their kids.
I have no hard feelings against him, even though I'm a nagger, as he puts it.
No hard feelings at all.
When
If you
get
drink, stay home.
Yeah.
Personal belongings and filing a false restraining order.
Mr. Hastings, you and the defendant were roommates? I'm not quite understanding
Yes, correct.
clearly whether you were roommates or in a relationship. What was it?
It was just roommates.
When did you start to be roommates?
In September of 2020.
Did you know each other before?
Yes.
How?
We were just friends that met at a party and hung out often.
Starting when?
That was in December of 2019.
And what made you decide to room together?
We were both looking for a place to live, so since we both needed that, we found this apartment together.
2 bedrooms?
Correct.
And you moved in with animals,
Correct.
I understand from the complaint.
Correct.
Cats?
Yes.
How many?
I had 2.
I had to.
I didn't ask you anything yet. You had 2. And Miss Cameron had 2. Any other animals?
No.
So you started to live together during COVID.
Correct.
Were you working?
Yes.
Was Miss Cameron working?
Yes.
What was the rent on the apartment?
It was $13.65.
And you each paid half.
Correct.
So far, correct? Arrangement.
Oh, in 2020, yeah, we just had many squabbles, but overall, we were just fine.
I'm going to ask you the same question. In 2020, everything okay?
No.
What happened in 2020?
It was emotional warfare since I moved in with him. There was arguments with everything, even simple things like cleaning the dishes, just nonstop. I was terrified of him living with him. I couldn't bring anything up without it being an argument.
Okay, so prior to moving in with Mr. Hastings, where did you live?
With my parents.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
Is this the first time you had an apartment?
Yes.
And how far away were your parents from this apartment?
Probably like 10 minutes.
If you were terrified, you should have moved home.
I wasn't allowed to.
You weren't allowed to because?
Because I wasn't allowed to live with my dad and stepmom because they moved into a 55 and over neighborhood.
When?
And I moved into my apartment to prepare for them moving out.
I just don't want to hear drama. If you had fights over who's going to clean the dishes, I don't want to hear terrified unless you're terrified. And if you're terrified and you're 21 years old, you go back to where you came from, to your parents' house. If you're terrified, may not have liked it, but that's just kid drama. So, squabbles in 2020. Your lawsuit says that she disposed of your belongings. She filed a restraining order.
Yes.
As a result of the restraining order, you were evicted from the apartment.
Yes.
It was a false restraining order. You hired a lawyer to appeal the finding of the judge.
Yes.
That you had harassed her because this restraining order was based on harassment.
Yes.
May I see a copy of it, please?
I have a copy of the restraining order.
Of the order or what it was based on?
It said it has the whole thing. It says what it was based on.
Yeah, I see what she has. It doesn't look like it was what it was based on. You do a write-up of what it was based on.
On the front page.
Judge who heard this case, and I'm assuming everything in this write-up is true. On the above date, which was the 7th of September 2021, on the above date and time, defendant and the plaintiff engaged in a verbal argument over household chores. The defendant then made comments to the plaintiff that he would go crazy on her and raised his fist. The defendant stated this multiple times and started shaking in anger, causing the plaintiff to be in fear for her life. And you had a hearing on this?
Yes.
You had a hearing on this. You told this to a judge?
Yes.
Yes.
I want you to tell me what you told the judge, or did you tell the judge anything?
I told the judge that I was raising my voice, but I was standing a good amount of distance away from her at the time, and that I was shaking because I wasn't being listened to, and that was it. There was no...
Judge say to you, how would you describe shaking in anger because you weren't being listened to?
I was shaking just because I was angry. I was just trying to keep my composure.
Well, that would frighten me.
Ryan Hastings claims his former roommate, Peyton Kammer, owes for a security deposit and personal belongings. Peyton is countersuing for rent and emotional distress.
Now, tell me, did the judge say to you, how would you describe shaking in anger because you weren't being listened to?
Can you repeat that question?
I don't know how you were shaking. You mean you...
I was shaking as in, like, I was shaking just because I was angry. I wasn't being listened to. I was trying to keep my composure, so I was just shaking.
Well, that would frighten me. Actually, I don't know whether I put you out of your house, but that would frighten me. Mr. Hastings, where are you living now?
I just moved into a new apartment.
With whom?
Myself.
Better?
Yes, and my cats.
Perfect. Yourself and your cats. Great. That might frighten me if you appeared out of control. So I'm dismissing that part of your complaint, which seeks damages for a false restraining order.
Okay.
What you actually just testified to me, and I took everything that she said in her complaint against you. I didn't even have to ask her. I wanted to know what you told the judge.
Of course.
Then it was a reasonable issuing of a protective order, just to make sure that it appeared to me what you were testifying to is that she couldn't tell the difference whether you were composing yourself or whether you were out of control. Okay, so it was...
May I interject and just say that the restraining order was repealed and remanded, saying that the court did not find sufficient evidence to impose the order. And
whether it was or not, I don't care what I'm not sitting as an appellate court.
Okay.
I'm sitting as a trier of fact for the first time in your civil act over an assault case or a homicide case. This guy says he was shaking. She says he was shaking in anger. You say I was shaking to try to maintain my composure. Well, I'm not going to worry about them. Let him go find someplace else to live, which is what he did. So I think that that's reasonable. Money owed for return of security deposit. Now, he was put out of the apartment. He put in security deposit.
Correct.
And he was put out of the apartment. How much security deposit did he put in?
$682.
Are you still living in the apartment?
I am.
Okay. When he moved out of the apartment as a result of this restraining order, was there any damage in the apartment that he caused?
No.
Then you have to give him back his $682 because any damage that would have resulted since he moved out would be your damage, okay? That's fair enough. $682, that's your security deposit, sir. Return of belongings. Okay, so when you were told that you had to vacate the apartment, tell me what belongings you left in the apartment which you think she still has, which belong to you.
I do not believe she has any for those items because they were thrown away.
What items?
So I had a bed.
Just a second.
Yeah.
You had a bed and there was a major flea problem in the apartment as a result of your cats.
Correct.
Okay, she threw away the bed. What else?
Okay, there was a Nintendo Switch.
Do you know what that is?
Nintendo Switch? I never found that. I believe he took that the night with him.
Okay, she didn't have it. She didn't throw it away. What else?
I also had a hookah that was in there.
What, a hookah?
Yeah.
Do you have his hookah?
No.
Go. What's next? Okay, if you have to think about it that hard.
I'm sorry.
Sir, we're finished. She owes you back your security deposit. Okay. That's $682. You have a counterclaim. Most of it is nonsense. You counterclaim for emotional distress. Forget that. Only when emotionally...
The month of September, he was late on it.
The month of September?
But that would have been the $682.
Was he there in September?
September 1st would have been the day that the money was due.
No, when did he vacate the apartment as a result of your restraining order?
September 7th, when the night of the mistake, but he was late on rent often.
$682, that's what he gets.
Yes.
As he gets a security deposit back. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I don't really disagree with anything. Everything went perfectly the way I would have hoped it went.
I'm glad I got my security deposit back, but I could have definitely been compensated for the items that I lost.
I mean, he got a little money out of it, but way less than he thought he would. It's a good day.
Sometimes I can get anxious, but I would not hurt anybody physically.
I hope he gets some help.
Me and my cats are the best trio.
You know, I remember from a very early period in my life when I started college that I wasn't really good at having a roommate.
I think you must have passed that on to me.
I did, especially one that you don't love. You know, it's hard enough to lived with us, so, you know, I have that argument all the time, but I love him.
Yeah.
It's very hard to deal with somebody schmutz that you don't love.
Got to be careful and pick someone you really think and cross your fingers and toes.
Actually, Sarah, I don't think you should pick anybody. I think that what you should do, if you can, is live in a shoebox by yourself, if that's all you can afford. Yeah. You know how many roommate cases we've done just in the last couple of years?
All with stress and aggravation intertwined immensely.
Immensely, and that's without romance involved. Oh, yeah. I mean, this young man, who looks like a perfectly reasonable young man and very honest, said he told the judge that he was shaking. I said, well, describe to me what you were doing. And he shook. And
I would say
that's
a
crazy.
little out there.
She was getting under his skin. There's no question she was getting under his skin.
Middle of COVID, everyone's inside.
Marina and David Quadra for illegal eviction and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everybody.
Hello, Judge. Case 2072, Burroughs versus Quadra.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Quadra, you were living in a home, in a house?
Correct, a townhome.
That you didn't own. And for how long had you been renting that home?
We did not rent out the home.
How long, if you didn't own it, then you were renting it?
We rented it for 2 years, Your Honor.
It gets scarier if you have a fixed position in your head so that you're not listening to my questions. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
When did your lease start?
July of 2020.
And when was it to terminate?
It was terminated August 1st, 2022.
And it was terminated by an eviction?
Correct.
And you were evicted because the landlord said that you sublet the apartment to these people and their family?
Correct.
And they were people who you knew, both in the military?
Just him.
What do you do?
I'm a federal employee.
And you?
I'm active duty, ma'am.
But you knew each other from work?
Correct.
Where did you move in August?
National City, Your Honor.
How far is that from your prior residence?
It's about 30 miles south, Your Honor.
Are you in a home that you own or that you rent?
We are still renting.
How much are you paying in rent?
$21.50 a month.
You have a signed lease?
We do.
When did that lease start?
August 1st, 2020.
Shh. Don't speak.
Yes, Your Honor.
How much closer?
To his job.
To his job?
It went from a 30-minute drive to a 15-minute drive.
Okay, so that's better.
Correct.
You were evicted. You were served a notice of eviction on what date?
They let us know a month before August. They gave us a 30-day notice.
Now, did the plaintiffs have any furniture in the home that you were evicted from?
Prior to us being evicted, yes.
Yes, prior to your being evicted. And what furniture did they have?
2 dressers and a bunk bed.
Anything else?
That's as far as furniture.
And what furniture did you have in there prior to being evicted?
A full living room.
And when did you move that out? On what date?
The 30th of July, 2 days before our moving date.
So you moved out all of your furniture?
Correct.
And how much were you paying in rent in the place from which you were evicted?
$25.95.
Oh, I didn't write that down. How much were you paying in the new place?
The place we are in now, $21.50.
So you're paying. Now, do you want to tell me your version of how they came to be living in your house?
We received a call one night. It was very late, 10 p.m. Robert was very upset, crying. He had nowhere to go.
He?
Correct. Robert had nowhere to go, and Kelly was asking for a divorce. He asked if he could crash on the couch. We have a toddler at home, so I asked him to sleep in our guest bedroom instead of the couch.
Okay.
He stayed that first original night, and the next day he needed to job hunt as he was jobless. We offered to watch his child. He looked for the job and came home. He asked us if he could stay for a while in that guest bedroom until he got onto his feet with the job. He offered money to just help out with utilities and
how much?
$1,000.
$1,000 a month?
No, just $1,000. And our words, when he had asked, and we asked him, how long do you think it will take you to get on your feet? It was just a couple weeks.
Okay, so he was offering $1,000.
Correct.
Which was 40% of your rent to stay for 2 weeks, to stay in your guest bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty decent. Did he give you the $1,000?
He did.
And he gave you the $1,000 on what date?
He gave us the $1,000 on May 29th.
And when did he start staying there?
He started staying with us May 21st.
Then what happened?
He stayed with us for about a week. Everything was okay. He job hunted. I helped with the child. With her, it was something that she had asked for. They wanted to work on it together and had asked if Kelly could come around to stay with him and the children and work on their marriage.
When he moved into the guest room, did he take the children? Did he have the children with him?
He did, but it was just on certain nights. They were sharing.
And then he asked if Kelly could come as well.
Correct.
The wife. And what did you say? Why couldn't he go home?
He could not go home due to their relationship with her parents. Their parents.
Oh, she was living with her parents.
Correct.
And they were both living with her parents.
Correct.
So he said, I can't go home. We want to work on the marriage. Could we come and stay here with you?
Correct.
They have 2 kids?
They have 3.
They have 3 kids. And how many dogs?
4.
4 dogs. So far, you get 4 stars if you let her come.
I wish it would have worked that way.
Yeah. You don't understand that that's where I'm at so far.
Yeah, of course.
So now, May 29th, he gives you the $1,000. She moves in when with the dogs?
So we had a long trip planned to Vegas. We let them know that after we had left, she could come stay while we were gone.
What month? June?
June, correct.
How long were you away?
We were away for 5 to 6 days.
Well, what was he going to do?
A plan of, here's a lease agreement you are going to rent from us. It was just I need somewhere to stay. Can they please come for this short period of time until we figure this out?
Great. Okay, now let me hear your version of the events. When you went to stay there with your children, you were having trouble with your wife.
It's incorrect.
Incorrect. What I said was, because I believe her. I believe that you called her and said exactly what she said. She told me. I mean, I don't have to have Whitney read it back. I believe that that's what you said. So I don't want to hear baloney about school districts. You were having trouble with your wife.
And later today.
You can't have it both ways.
It's a complicated case.
It's not complicated. It's very simple. You didn't have a written contract. If you had an oral contract, that's one thing.
Kelly and Robert Burrows claim their former friends, Marina and David Quadra, owe for an illegal eviction. Marina and David are countersuing, saying Kelly and Robert caused them to be evicted.
So when you went to their house and you wanted to work on your marriage, you could have gone back to your in-laws.
Yes, that's correct.
You could have. Why didn't you?
The reason why we decided to split up was because we're trying to keep our kids in the same school district. So with having 4 still being in May, they can finish in the same school district. That's why I decided I needed a mailing address so that they could stay in the same school district.
So you mean this discussion that she just said to me about you having problems, marital problems with your wife, that never happened?
Irrelevant. It's just...
No, that's not what I said. What I said was, because I believe her. I believe that that's what happened. I believe that you called her and said exactly what she said. She told me. I mean, I don't have to have Whitney read it back. I believe that that's what you said. So I don't want to hear baloney about school districts. You were having trouble with your wife.
No, ma'am.
No.
No.
And you didn't tell her that.
We had been moved out of our old place of 6 years in El Cajon, and we were trying for 6 months to find a new place. So yes, it does put a lot of stress on a relationship, but we did not have any marital...
Mr. Burrows, you know what my strong suit is, and there's no question that the cameras just caught your face. My strong suit is being able to spot a lie from a mile away. And I'm telling you that there's no question that you called her late at night and said, I'm having trouble with my wife. She asked me for a divorce. Can I come and stay with you?
Your Honor, may I speak?
You want me to call your parents?
Please do.
Would you like me to call your parents? I'm just asking you, would you like me to call your parents?
No.
Of course not. That's an easy thing for me to do.
Part of what was going on was that we lived in our home for 6 years, and the homeowners had moved back in, and so they asked us to leave, and we had been actively searching for a home. So yes, it did put a bit of a strain on our marriage, and I took my dogs with me so that I can keep my operating business at my parents' house, because I am a dog boarder, dog sitter, and I did not want to shut my business down. And during this time, tensions, little things happening at my parents' house. So I said, you need to go see if you can rent a room or find somebody that can help you in the meantime till we can actively keep searching for a place for our family. We tried 5 different homes and we didn't.
I don't care. What I said to your husband was he lied to me. Because there's no question that he called, and whether it was true or not, that he said to your friends, I need a place to go. Do you have a place that I could stay on the couch? There's no question he said that to her.
That is true. Yes, that is true.
Okay. Well, then I want you to introduce your husband to the truth.
Is it true?
It's something that he hasn't met, because that's not what he told me what happened.
Correct.
So that was a mistake of his. That was a mistake. And you know what happens when you lie to me once? Emotional distress. You lie to me once, your case is dismissed. Now, we're going to come over here. You have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is money owed for property damage.
Correct.
And for damages for eviction, because what happened was your landlord evicted you because she comes with her 4 dogs, 3 gerbils, 2 parakeets to your house, and the owner of your condo doesn't want her any more than the owner of their last condo.
Of course.
Didn't want them. Got to save your money, buy your own house, so you can have as many dogs and parakeets as you like. You moved into a place that's nicer?
Absolutely not.
Tell me what the papers said when your landlord notified you of the eviction. Do you have them?
We do.
I'd like to take a look at them.
Yes, no problem. There was also in that piece of paper a $250 fine through our HOA from the whole commotion that he caused the day of asking them to leave.
Just a second, you were a month-to-month tenant.
Correct.
You didn't have a lease. Just a second, your lawsuit is for damages, punitive damages for an eviction. You weren't evicted.
Well, we were asked to leave if we...
No, they just decided not to renew your month-to-month lease.
Due to the...
I don't care what it was due to. Listen, if I owned a property and you let 3 kids, 4 dogs, moved into my condo for 6 days, I wouldn't renew your lease on a month-to-month basis either. I don't care whether they were there for 2 days, 4 days, a week, or a month. You understand?
Understood.
Okay, so there was no eviction. So the punitive damages for that, forget it. Money owed for property damage. When they moved out, what did they damage? And how much did it cost you?
There was a hole in the molding from moving the dressers down our stairs. They bonked it, bringing it out angrily because they were mad that we asked them to leave. We have the letters from our landlord stating everything that they had to deduct from our deposit.
Just a second, a hole in the wall. And how much was the hole in the wall?
The molding was...
No, just look at the paper and tell me how much was the hole in the wall.
The painting was $180 and the molding repair was $200.
Now, did you damage the molding when you were moving a dresser out of the house?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, not that you're aware of. You want to try the truth now? Was there a hole that you created moving a dresser out of the house?
When David and I were moving our dresser over the stairs.
To the truth. Did you move the dresser with him?
I did help move the furniture.
Your case is dismissed. The counterclaim likewise is dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I take it as a win. The initial suit was them against us. Their suit got dismissed.
We lost a lot of things and a lot of wages.
That was just us being good friends. We definitely learned our lesson. We will never help another crying husband on our doorstep claiming divorce again.
People that are offering to be nice to you in times of need don't charge you.
They kind of cried, oh, marriage and divorce the whole time, knowing that we're young and married. It's something we take seriously in our lives.
And we're still trying to build our lives back.
I should actually make a party to introduce all those people to Mr. Truth.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mismatch. Doesn't make sense. If you're going to stay with a friend for a few days, you don't bring a bunk bed and 2 dressers. No. I've stayed with friends for a couple days, long weekend. You bring a bag with some clothes.
Even with your kids.
Yeah, you don't bring furniture. You don't bring any of that. So there's a lot of discrepancies.
Things that didn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's you.
Cost of an 18-wheeler truck.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge.
How are you?
Case number 2032, Shaw versus Celestine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Shaw, these are your parents, is that right?
Yes, they are.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Just the very broad framework of this case. You're suing your parents for money that you put into a truck that belongs to them.
Correct.
And they are counterclaiming for money that they say you owe them for a balance of a dog they purchased for you. Mm-hmm. The truck that you fixed belonged to your parents.
Yes, the agreement was...
the truck that you fixed belonged to your parents. And
Correct.
what I gather is that you would come into some money.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm is not an answer.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And when did you come into that money?
I never came into any money from them after I fixed
Not
the
from
truck.
them. I didn't say from them, that you came into some money.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh is not an answer.
I'm sorry, yes, ma'am. I came into
So I
in
want
October.
you to, in October, you were not employed.
I was employed.
By whom?
Trucking.
Is that their company?
No, I was working with them and their brother.
So you were working with the family?
Yes.
Okay. That was in October.
Yes,
October
ma'am.
of 2021. Is not an answer.
I mean, yes,
is
ma'am.
an answer.
I'm sorry.
And how much did you come into?
About $10,000 for the month of September and October.
And then your father said to you, I assume, you should take some of that money and buy a 16-wheeler truck so that you...
No, ma'am.
Well, how did that happen, sir, that you got possession of your parents' truck?
So
Did you try to buy a truck on your own?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay,
And
in
that
what
deal
month?
failed.
Just a second. In what month did you try to buy a truck for yourself?
January.
January of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And tried to buy a truck so that you could have your own truck for long hauling and business.
Yes, ma'am.
And you went to a dealer and you found the truck that you liked, but you didn't qualify for financing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how much is a new truck?
That truck, it wasn't new. It was a 20.
There was a discussion that they had an older truck that wasn't running.
It needed minor work.
It needed...
was told to me.
Okay, so they said to you it needs minor work. Was it running?
It was running, but the diamond seal was cracked, so eventually the truck was just going to break down completely.
Okay, so you took that truck with the understanding that you were going to repair the truck, and then what?
To make money. But
So you would repair the truck and then use it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you would keep most of the profits from using that truck? I mean, I'm trying to understand what the agreement was.
My dad, Nathan, told me that the truck was only going to be worth $4,000 to fix, which was a diamond seal. It needs some bushings. It needs something for the exhaust pipe. And I was like, okay. But when the dude kept calling me for the truck, and he was like, okay, this needs to be done.
But you took the truck into a mechanic?
Yes, ma'am.
And did they give you an estimate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Before or after they did the work?
They gave me one before, but I don't have that estimate, but I have the one for after.
You mean after they completed the work, they sent you a bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's not an estimate. An estimate, sir, is when you go in and say, here's a truck. I want you to give me an estimate of what it is to have it fixed. And they give you an estimate, and then you determine whether or not you want them to do any or all of that work, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I would never bring a truck into any mechanic or to any dealership mechanic and say, fix it.
When they was calling me, telling me additional problems that was wrong, I would call them, which I have my phone records that show that I was also calling them once the dealership called me to fix the truck.
Well,
because some
just a
stuff
second.
on the truck wasn't able, like it needed a new gear, it needed new transmission was messed up on the truck.
Just
which
a second.
I called
All I want is what you're telling me that your father told you to go fix.
Well, yeah, he was, but I had already had a settled amount that I told him that I was willing to spend, which was $10,000.
Well, did you spend $10,000?
The truck was actually over $10,000.
I understand to fix it, but you actually spent
$10,000.
You actually spent the $10,000.
$10,900 to be exact.
To fix the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think the truck was $13,000 to fix.
Yes, ma'am.
So you paid the additional $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the truck is running.
Yes, ma'am, it's running. It was running before, Your Honor.
But it's running now better because
ma'am.
there are...
Yes, ma'am.
Because
using it.
Just a second. I can only hear from one of you. He said the truck is in use. You said no.
It's not used. Or is the truck?
No, Your Honor, I misunderstood what you said. I thought you was talking about the repair. You saying is the truck operable now? Yes, it's operable, but it's not on the road.
It's not on the road? Who
Yes,
cares
ma'am.
if it's not on the road?
Oh, yes.
The idea
Yes, ma'am.
was he was supposed to fix the truck and supposed to be able to use the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Is he able to use the truck?
Yes, he's able to use the truck.
Okay, great. When was the last time he tried to use the truck?
He never tried to use the truck after it was fixed. He said that he no longer wanted to be a part of the deal to give him his money back.
Okay.
I have something. Now, when the truck originally got fixed in February, my dad came into town multiple times. It was one more piece that needed to be fixed, which was the ABS module, which if you get pulled over, they're going to stop you and shut you down completely.
I don't know.
And I told him, hey, we need to get that fixed. He came into town 3 times, and I asked him, hey, is you going to take the truck to the shop? Hey, is you going to take the truck to the shop? He said no. And he's like, well, it don't have any insurance. And it was just a whole bunch of excuses why he couldn't take the truck to the shop.
Whether he can or he can't, he says, and your mother says you're able to use the truck.
But I don't have a CDL, so I'm not able to drive it.
Well, you didn't have that when you took it in anyway, to be fixed.
But I didn't take the truck over there. He drove the truck to the mechanic shop.
Whatever, I don't care who drove it there, but your agreement with him was you tried to buy a new truck. It was much too expensive. Your agreement with your parents was that you would take an older truck of theirs that needed a lot of work, and you took it into him money.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm asking you, now the truck is fixed to the tune of $13,000. When was the last time that you asked to use the truck that your parents said you can't?
Well, I asked him, can I have his dad take the truck to get the additional piece put on, and he told me no, just to wait till he come into town.
Okay. After the agreement that your son was going to pay the money, fix the truck, was your agreement with him that he could use it at will?
I gave him a specific time.
I'd like to hear what the specific times were.
The specific time was...
Let's make it up as we go.
No, ma'am. I'm thinking straight to you. I'm going to tell you just like it actually is.
Levi Shaw claims his parents, Davery and Nathan Celestine, owe for the repairs of an 18-wheeler truck. Levi's parents are countersuing for the balance of an English bulldog.
Was the additional piece put on the truck that he's talking about?
No, ma'am. It didn't actually need that addition. It was an ABS modulator, which on that particular model was a 1995 FLD Classic. On that particular model, you don't need that to reset the ABS light. All you need is a sensor that goes in the hub of the wheel.
What I'm asking you is, your son said that you needed this one part. This is your business.
Yes, ma'am.
How much is that one part?
This is a part that I never researched, so I can't tell you that. But according to him...
Perhaps I didn't ask you anything. Perhaps you can tell me.
The part was $900.
That was returned back.
It was never returned because they wouldn't let me return it because it's dealing with wires. So when I asked them, can I return it, they said no. And I had a text where I texted her and I said, hey, they will not let me return this piece.
Return what piece?
The ABS module. They will not let me return it because it's electrical and they do not accept returns on it.
Necessary. You didn't buy it from him.
No, but I don't know if it was necessary, but what the mechanic told me and what
you can't tell me what the mechanic told you.
Well, I'm just saying the mechanic told
No,
me
you
that
can't tell me what the mechanic told you. Well, all I'm telling you, Mr. Shaw, is you had an agreement with your parents to fix a truck and then to be able to use it. And I want to know whether they have ever denied you the right, because that was the contract that you made. You never made a contract with them that you would take a truck to the mechanic and they would pay for the repairs. You never made that contract with them. You want me to say that that was your contract with them. They say the truck is operable now and that you can use it. When do you want to use it?
Well, if they're willing to let me use it, then I want to use it as soon as possible.
Okay, and you can drive the truck?
No, I was going to hire a driver.
Okay, and the truck now is not on the road, is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yes, ma'am, that's right.
Now,
that's right. That's right.
The truck is not on the road.
No, ma'am, it's
is
not.
What you said,
Yes.
but operable.
Yes, it's not operable.
Okay, and after the agreement that your son was going to pay the money, fix the truck, and then be able to work at it so that he's getting some benefit from what he put into the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an agreement?
I wanted to ask...
I'm not looking at you.
Okay.
Did you have a discussion with him about how much of the time he would be able to utilize the truck, or was your agreement with him that he could use it at will?
I gave him a specific time. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to hear what the specific times were.
The specific time was...
Let's make it up as we go.
No, ma'am. I'm thinking straight to you. I'm going to tell you just like it actually is. I gave him specifically, according to him, about 3 months of when he probably needed it, to get himself together.
No, just a second. You mean he was going to spend $10,000 on fixing the truck and you were going to let him use it for 3 months?
Well,
put your hand down. I'm not talking to you.
Well, as long as he needed it. I'm going to put it that way. As long as he needed the truck.
Okay. So now that's better.
Yes, ma'am.
So that he can use the truck whenever he needs it and he's going to get a driver. I just want to know, because we're going to have to memorialize all this in an order. What do you want?
We had a driver. My brother was the driver.
I don't care whether your brother was in agreement with him that if he paid to have it fixed, he could use the truck whenever he wanted to. That's what your father says.
No, that is not
Okay,
that is not
so
true.
when did you ask to use the truck?
So in January, when I was getting the truck fixed, they told me $4,000. But as the mechanic kept kept calling me, adding on stuff. I said, hey, I'm not about to pay all this money, and y'all telling me I can just use it. If I'm about to put all my money into it, I want the truck. And my mom was like, okay, you can do that, because in January, they didn't make any money.
Just a second. So what you're telling me is what you said to your mother, I'm not going to put in all this money unless the truck belongs to me.
Correct.
Well, that's not unreasonable, Mr. Shaw. I can actually see that. You're spending $10,000 of your money, and you want to be able to use the truck. And you want it to be able to not have it on a whim of somebody else.
Yes, ma'am.
How old is this truck?
This truck is exactly 22 years old.
How long have you owned it?
I've owned it since I was 23 years old.
Okay, so you've owned it since it was new.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make a living from it?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Good. Do you have other trucks now?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
How many others?
Just one other. I'm not no big scale company. I just got one other truck, yes, ma'am.
Can I see the title to the truck, please?
To the truck we're talking about?
Yes.
I don't have that title with me.
Why not?
I was under the impression that I didn't need to bring it.
Okay. And according to you, the truck's not on the road now?
No, ma'am, it's not on the road.
Do you remember having a conversation with your son about, I'm not going to spend all this money unless the truck is mine?
Yes, ma'am, I do remember that
Do
conversation.
you remember where it took place?
He was driving and I was at home.
So it was over the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Remember what month that was?
January.
January of 2022.
Correct.
Tell me what you said to him and what he said to you.
I told him, I totally understand what you're saying. I said, let me talk to your daddy, and we'll see what we could do, but...
Great. As a parent, that sounds perfectly reasonable. And did you say, okay, that sounds okay, let me talk to your daddy. You have to talk to the owner of the truck, because
Correct.
now you're seeking to change the agreement. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And after you spoke to your mother, did you have a conversation with your father about the ownership of the truck?
Yes, we did.
And tell me when that was and what was discussed.
It was in January as well, and when I told him that, he said he totally agreed with me that if I put in majority of the money, that I can have the truck.
Okay. I want to tell you, certain things sort of ring true to me. If I were a young person and spending all my money for a business, because this is the business that he was going to be in, he was going to hire a driver and he was going to take a certain amount of the profits, I could understand him saying to his parents, who now have a truck that they're not using because it's not on the road, I'm going to spend all my savings, it looks like, because the initial estimate was $4,000, but it kept going up and up and up and up and up. So if I'm going to spend all this, put your hand down, if I'm going to spend all this money, I'd like to own the truck. And in response to that, his mother said, and acknowledges that she said, it sounds right to me, I'm going to speak to your father. And according to you, you spoke to your father, and your father said, sounds okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you went ahead and spent the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Put your hand down. This
Your
is
Honor,
not
I don't
a. This is
understand,
not.
Your Honor.
It's dollars
I
on
done
to
made
fix-
over $1
to
million
fix your
with
truck.
this truck.
That's ridiculous.
I want you to stop it.
Say, man. Hey, man.
Okay.
How can you tell me
Now,
to stop
are
on
we
something
going-
I worked blood, sweat, and tears on? He finna take.
Levi Shaw says his parents, Davery and Nathan Celestine, owe for the costs of repairs to an 18-wheeler truck. Levi's parents say he never used the truck, and it is still not fixed.
I'd like to see the bills for the truck.
Oh, I have it on my phone.
Well, what is that?
These was the bank statements, because at first they was countersuing for insurance as well. So I was showing bank statements where I had sent them money. So
No, I
that's
don't-
what these was
Yeah.
for. But I have it on my. Here you go.
Is that the one final invoice?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it.
And it also I have at the bottom where it says it needs the ABS
Just hold it up.
module.
Your Honor, can I see that as well?
Yes. Well, so the entire amount is $13,000.
$13,000 and some change.
And your father paid $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
This is not the correct invoice.
What?
I
got
have
the
the
original.
original invoice.
Fine, I'll take a look
This
at
the
yours.
invoice that was sent to me via, so by their email, which I could pull up their email as well.
And it shows that it's paid on the back.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
It's the same thing as he showed me.
But it has our name on it.
Who cares?
The ones that he showed you, it changed since then.
Well, but let me ask you a question.
No.
Unless I'm missing something.
No.
You're not questioning the fact that he paid $10,000 to fix the truck out of the $13,000 that the truck was. Are you questioning that?
No, I'm not
Okay,
questioning that.
then I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay.
Let's go over this one more time. When your son said to you, if I'm going to spend all this money, I want to own the truck, and your wife had the same conversation with you, right? She said, I got a call from Levi. Levi said if he's going to spend all this money, he really wants the truck, and she actually thought it was okay. And what did you say, sir?
I said that I'm not going to sell you the truck.
Why?
I will let you use the truck.
No, when did you say that?
Because I have other children.
Oh, no, but your other children didn't put any money into the truck.
No, I know.
No, just a second. Your other children didn't put any money into the truck.
But that's like...
Hand down.
He didn't ask me to buy the truck.
Okay.
Donna. He asked, could he use it?
Just a second.
He was going to sell it to my uncle because when the repairs got... Yes, but they didn't have the money, so when they... You just...
Mr. Shaw, I don't expect you to talk to each other. I don't expect you to talk to him.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Very easy. I believe that you changed the contract with your son from a contract where he would pay for the repairs, which was supposed to be $4,000, and then you have the use of the truck, to the fact that he was going to spend $10,000, which was all of his money. Put your hand down. I'm not... This 22-year-old truck that you've had since it was new was going to be his. And I am going to craft an order to the Department of Motor Vehicles to reissue a title in the truck to him. Do you understand? He's going to take that order. He's going to get a new registration for the car and a new ownership. Unless you want, put your hand down. This is
Yana,
not
I don't
a.
understand
This is
that,
not.
Yana.
It's not.
I don't understand that.
Well,
I got other children. I got 5 other kids.
Do you want me to
and
say
he's
it's slower?
Yana.
And I say, what about the $3,500 that we put into it?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
But it wasn't $4,500, it was $3,500.
35. I'm sorry if you didn't hear me well.
Man.
You are absolutely entitled to that. I believe you are entitled to that. He put in 10, that's his truck.
Yana, I worked all my life with that truck.
I don't care.
I worked all my...
I don't care. He's not going to spend his $10,000
I done made over $1 million with
your
the truck.
That's ridiculous.
I want you to stop it.
Say, man. Hey, man. Okay. How can you tell me
Now,
to stop
are
on
we
something
going-
I worked blood, sweat, and tears on? He finna take.
I need a break.
That's the judgment. I'm not entertaining your counterclaim. That's the judgment of the court. You get title to the truck. You can retrieve it as soon as you change the registration of the truck. However, in order to do that, you have to give your parents the $3,500 that they put into the truck. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor,
Good.
what about
We're
this
done.
dog?
We're done.
We
This
paying
court is
for
adjourned.
We're done.
We
I
paying
have a
for this
question,
dog.
We're done.
It's over.
Okay.
We paying for this dog, and he's not giving us nothing.
Let me explain something to you. The reason, let me explain something to you. The reason that I'm not hearing your counterclaim is because the two of you were disrespectful and didn't listen to me. Oh, yes, you.
Respectful towards her.
I'm very glad she ruled in my favor.
It was the initial, the thought of giving up my hard-earned possessions.
It was because I did try to work it out before we came to court, and they was like, no, we're not going to pay you nothing.
I never would have thought in a million years sue my parents, even though they, my parents whooped my butt. But that was just something you had to go through back then.
It saddens me. I'm in disbelief that my parents did that to me. I didn't think that they would do that.
I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know his plans. I can't talk that.
If you do business with family, make sure you get contracts.
I sympathize with the plaintiff's position on this because modifications of contracts are supposed to be allowed when there's a change in circumstance. So it's not like he was attempting to change the contract every Friday or for no reason. He thought that it was going to be $4,000. It turned out to be $10,000 to fix the truck. And as such, he wanted a bargain for exchange. That's a lot more money than he initially intended. So that conversation makes sense to me, that conversation between his parents, that I know we had agreed to this, but now with this new information, this is what I'm comfortable with. Is that okay?
I think so. I think that is a common sense interpretation of what happened.
For a truck that cost $60,000 20 years ago, to put in $10,000 to it is not nothing. That's a big investment.
Well, it probably isn't worth more than that. And the condition that it was in before he had it repaired, their position was unreasonable because now they have a fixed truck
that their child paid for.
That their child paid for. And with the animus between them, it doesn't seem to me as if he's going to get any benefit from the bargain. So the modification of their original oral contract, which I think happens occasionally when circumstances change, as long as both parties agree. And I actually think that both the mother and the father said okay, and then something happened that I don't know about.
Don't want to know about.
And I don't want to know about.